Hi everyone, Ben Burgess here from Esri UK. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make use of infiltration rasters in a flood simulation in ArcGIS Pro. Now before we get started, in order to use the flood simulation tool in ArcGIS Pro, you do need access to an advanced license and you do need to be updated to version 3.3 or later. So here I am in ArcGIS Pro and you'll see that I have a simulation area set up covering the area of Hebden Bridge. Now, if I open up the configuration pane of the flood simulation tool, you'll see that we have an option here to define infiltration rates for our simulation. Now, infiltration rates allow us to simulate how quickly different surface types absorb water in our simulation. So if I click on the drop down here, you'll see that we have some default options. So for example, we could say that the overall surface type in our simulation area is an impervious surface, and that has an infiltration rate of 0 millimeters per hour. And so this would result in a lot of surface runoff. Or we could say, for example, that the overall surface type is this forest dry loam category, which has a much higher infiltration rate of 200 millimeters per hour. So we can imagine there'll be a lot less surface runoff in this scenario. But in reality, you can imagine that across Hebden Bridge, there are many different types of surfaces, and for a more accurate simulation, we can make use of an infiltration raster, which can capture those varying surface types within one simulation. So to get started with that, first I need a land classification raster to define those different surface types across this area of interest. So for this, I'm going to use the Ordnance Survey's master map topographic area data. So I already have this in my catalog pane. Whoops, there we go. In my database, and here you can see I have the master map topographic area for Hebden Bridge. And so I'm just going to drag this into our map view here. Now this dataset contains everything from roads to parks, and it's represented by individual features. And so if I just right click on the layer and head into my symbology, oh, there we go. Then we can change this to a unique symbology, and then you'll see that all the different fields that we have as part of this layer. Now I'm going to symbolize this by style description, and that's what I'm going to make use of for classifying the different land types. So you can see it has different ways of describing the landfills across this area. So we have things like agricultural landfill, bridge fill, canal, man-made, etc. But to make use of this layer in our flood simulation tool, we do need to turn this into a raster. So for that, I'm going to use the polygon to raster tool. So I'm going to head up into the command search here. I'm going to type polygon to raster. And there we have it. It's part of the conversion tools. For the input features, I'm going to choose the master map topographic area. And for the value field, I'm going to choose that, where is it? Style description. There we go. And for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to keep everything else the same, and then I'll hit run. So you'll see now in our contents pane, it's given us a new layer. It's a raster layer, and that's our land classification raster. Now if I just hide this feature layer here to show, there we go. And if I just click on here, for example, on agricultural landfill, you'll see that each classification has been assigned a unique pixel value. Now we can actually change these values, and we can assign infiltration rates as pixel values instead to each of the land types. So to do this, I'm going to use the reclassify tool. So for that, I'm going to open up reclassify. Again, I've already recently used this, so I'm making use of the command search here, but it will be within your geoprocessing toolbox. For the input raster, I'm going to choose the master map topographic raster. And for the reclass field, I'm actually going to change this to value because we want to reclassify our pixel values. And if I click unique here, you're able to see all the different pixel values that we've had to come up here. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and change each of these values to an infiltration rate. And for this demonstration, I'm just going to use the default values which we saw in that drop down earlier. And I'm just going to stick to a few surface types, but you can have more precise values derived from a study in your area, and you can put as many as you want in really. So what I'll do is double click on there and I'll change 1, which is the value for our agricultural land, and I might want to give that an infiltration rate of something like 100 millimeters per hour. And then we can change that. Now I'm going to skip this part along a bit because it might take a little bit of time, but when I'm back we'll have our reclassified raster. Okay, so once we have that processed and complete, we now have our infiltration raster. Now, if I go back into the simulation configuration pane, which we had open at the start, and I head back to that drop down for our infiltration rates, you'll see that we have now our infiltration raster showing as an option to set as infiltration rates. And so there we have it. That is how you can create and make use of infiltration rasters in flood simulations in ArcGIS Pro.